We need some Christmas music.
Oh yeah, do. Merry Christmas.
Rocking around the Christmas tree. The Christmas.
There you
Okay.
go.
Good morning, guys. It's
Good
Friday.
morning. I just got in the mood.
Not just any Friday, the Friday before Christmas. Everybody's sort of getting everything done before the weekend and getting ready to wind down. Are you guys spending your weekend doing like last minute Christmas shopping, or like what does the weekend look like for you?
We are
for the
shopped
holiday?
and we are wrapped. The presents are
Ooh.
under the tree. We are ready to go. It's just be festive and merry now.
Sean,
Yeah.
are you that ready as well?
So I cheated. I got all the wrapping done, and then I have a little elf, a 14-year-old elf, that has taken care of the wrapping part. But yeah, as of basically yesterday, like my shopping was done and my wrapping.
There you go. How
Can
about
I
you,
just say,
Rachel?
wrapping presents is one of the worst things. I'm
Yep.
so bad at it. Women are supposed to be really good at this shit and like put beautiful little bows and the creases are perfect. My wrapping is terrible. And I liked it when I was a kid, but I hate it as an adult.
Out terribly wrap you any day. It's to the point of people are like, why do you even try?
I know.
Like I don't cut with scissors. It's just torn. The tape. Yeah. So I think you're being hard on yourself until you see a present that's wrapped by me. I don't even have to put.
I don't know, Sean. Maybe we compete for the worst wrapping.
They're like, oh, that's yours.
My husband is better at it than I am.
To social media with you two on the Christmas morning. We will have more competition.
Okay.
And by the way, speaking of Christmas, did you guys see President Trump announced a day? Christmas Eve is off, and the 26th is off for federal workers.
I know.
Obviously, not the biggest fan and champion of federal workers, except Merry Christmas.
It's a nice gesture.
Yeah,
that's a very nice gesture.
Right. I was gonna say, you know what? Here's the thing that's silly. Like, I'm not a big fan of like, but no one's working anyway, to be honest with you. So even if it's like you might as well take the traffic off the road, let people enjoy it without taking a day of PTO. But I don't recall, having been in and out of government for 30 years or the military, that we've ever had, the 26th, the day before the 24th and the 26th off.
Yeah, no, it's a nice gesture.
Really
traditionally,
cool.
Presidents have done something like very close to it, like a half day or whatever. But you forget all the people who do. A lot of people, as you say, Sean, do take it off. But there are also a lot of people who have to go in, and that's a nice.
Now they get a 5 day.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing is that it's just one of those things where you either are basically like, I don't want to burn a day, so I'll go in. And I actually, so it's one of those things that just makes sense. And I actually wish he got a little bit more thanks for this, because people are every year like, this is ridiculous. And now you like, okay, I got it.
The question though is, does it continue after he's president, or is it just like a one-time?
No, it's an
annual. Yeah, like you'd have to do it every year. Yep.
Quick housekeeping note for everyone this morning. We originally said that today would be our last day doing the show. We're going to come back on Monday.
You.
Right. Not only do the show, right, as Sean is saying, we're going to bring some audience members in. So this will be fun. Come in. If you go to the dchuddle.com and subscribe, you can get the link for Monday. And again, we'll bring people in for questions. That should be really fun.
And we'll also do the YouTube chat. Don't worry. We'll not.
Of course. Yes.
Guys.
Yeah, you don't have to get up, but you have to go to the DC Huddle to actually get the link.
For all those who have asked, will we have a live audience? Get excited.
There it is at the DC Huddle on YouTube and on X. Okay, let's just go through agenda headlines real quick, and then we'll
real quick. By the way, another big programming note. I did buy the winning $1.5 billion Powerball ticket last night, so please save your $2. I do have it.
Okay, quick question. If you win,
I believe him, because
hold on. If
all the
you
things
win,
I accidentally believe that are jokes.
Do you guys? I mean, if I won, I'd still be here on Monday. Do you guys keep working if you win?
Wait, what? How much money is it?
1.5 billion.
Oh,
the one-time payment is
with a B.
With a B, 690 million. If you take the lump sum payment, oh God! All right.
So it's the Dan Show.
Dr. John, Professor Kenny, get ready to tee it up.
That's actually really adorable.
There's a 1 in 250 million chance that I won't.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Okay, agenda headlines. Let's go through these. We're going to talk about the move by RFK and the Trump administration to end government funding for kids transitioning care. We're going to talk about the Trump Kennedy Center power grab, with the president renaming Kennedy Center after himself.
The trustees.
So no surprise there, actually. The DNC's arrogance with the 2024 autopsy news that they decided not to release it. Surprise. We'll talk about Mamdani's appointee problem, one of his top officials resigning because of past anti-Semitic tweets. And then we'll end with Turning Points USA in the conference, basically this sort of MAGA civil war we saw playing out in real time on the stage last night. But first, let's do the day book. 1 o'clock, President Donald Trump's going to be making an announcement from the White House, the Roosevelt Room. At 5:45, he has a Christmas reception at the White House. But the big event, guys, is tonight at 9 o'clock. He'll be delivering remarks on the economy in Rocky Mountain, North Carolina. I'm a little confused on this, admittedly, because it's 9 o'clock on a Friday, and not only on a Friday, but the Friday before Christmas. I just wonder if anybody's going to be watching.
Well, two things. One, this is where he's going is part of this new congressional district in North Carolina that they're trying to pick up. So, location. But two, I'm just curious because his first two attempts at these economic speeches have not been great. Does he kind of find a voice tonight? Does he settle into some sort of kind of, routine rhythm when talking about affordability in the economy? Wednesday night did not calm a lot of nerves within the party.
Sean, his speech in Pennsylvania was criticized by some for being too long-winded. The one, obviously, Wednesday, as Dan just said, was very short. And we talked about how it was sort of, a meh speech. Do they recalibrate for tonight and do something different?
It's like the Three Little Bears. One was too hot, one was too cold. This one was just right. I look, there's obviously a difference between a speech that you're at the desk or reading a teleprompter from the White House and one that you're giving at a rally type environment. We talked about the importance of the audience for him. He feeds off of that. So to me, the delta is always what's in the teleprompter and what does he riff on? And that's what makes a Trump speech, is that like his stories, his animation, who he calls up to the stage. And again, they might refine what's in the teleprompter and he'll read that for the most part, but then what does he say off top, kind of how does he riff? And that's where the big sort of difference between, the speech in Pennsylvania, the speech thing in one tonight.
Did we hear a hoax tonight when talking about affordability?
Oh, I don't think so.
Can I just say, I understand if you're a Trump official, you sort of cringe when the riffing starts, right? What's he going to say? Oh my gosh. As a reporter,
I don't know that. By the way,
I
don't know
entertaining and colorful, but yeah. I'm like,
I don't know that. Like, if you're a Trump official that's been around him for a while, and you're still cringing, then you shouldn't be there.
Oh, fair enough. Totally fair enough. This is not on the president's agenda, but Kevin Hassett told reporters yesterday that there will be a big meeting at the White House today before the president leaves for North Carolina, and I believe he's going to Mar-a-Lago right after.
Correct.
They're going to be doing a meeting on some sort of housing proposal that the administration is going to be rolling out in a few weeks. The president actually teased this a little bit during his speech on Wednesday. And apparently Bessent has been sort of hinting at this.
Yep.
Sean, do we know? I guess when I think about like housing reforms and stuff like this, I often think of like Democrats because they're often talking about housing and affordability. What do we have any sense of what a Republican housing proposal might look like?
I mean, I got to imagine where the president has heard a lot, and this is ironically a big issue that was championed by Charlie Kirk, is first-time home ownership for younger Americans. And my guess is that it will be some kind of reform on like the what used to be like the HUD-1 applications and how you can get through and financing and government loans. And maybe interest rate caps. So there's going to be something like that that's going to further interest home ownership for young Americans.
Yeah.
The ironic thing to me, by the way, and we'll see how deep tonight goes. I mean, how deep whatever this ultimately is, like, if you were that close to the finish line, why wouldn't you have put it in the speech?
They've been teasing this. I'll be really curious. I mean, this is like their healthcare bill. I wonder, right?
Mm.
Next week. next
Well,
week.
but it really is
Next
it's
week.
a real problem for young Americans. I
But
mean,
so
I
much of
think
it's local. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, it's every county, every town has their own permitting rules and construction rules and standards. And not that the federal government can't do anything and Trump's a builder, but like, I'll be curious.
Well,
I
so
mean,
just out of curiosity,
go ahead.
here's my 2 cents. For example, for veterans, there's the VA loans, which really the federal government guarantees the loan in a different way to allow you. I mean, there's less amount down, which helps, and then an easier way to get that loan, right? So you could structure something for younger Americans similar to a VA loan where you've got government backing in a way that makes banks more, so if you have less credit or you have to put less down, because to Dan's point, like think about this, if you bought a $500,000 condo under normal rules, you're looking at 20% down. That's $100,000. You were coming out of college.
Nobody has that.
No one has it.
Well, but guys, this is how you got the financial crisis. I mean, just be careful. Like that's the chat. You start saying not a lot of money down, standards are being loosened. Hello, Fannie and Freddie. Like this is, I mean, anyway.
No, but it really is a challenge. I mean,
I know, but I mean,
would say that I've been pretty, fortunate in my career in terms of my finances and such. And yet my husband and I had student loans. You got to pay back your student loans. We had to delay getting married because we got to pay for that. And then you got to get married, got to pay for a wedding. And then you don't get a home until you're almost 30 years old. That's if you're lucky.
Well, hello, voter anger right now. I mean, this is it. So
yeah. Anyway,
all right.
A couple of other headlines. Number one, TikTok has signed a deal to divest its U.S. Entity to a joint venture controlled by American investors. I bring this up because we all know Sean loves TikTok. Sean, this means you're going to have to let us go on.
No, it does. Well, look, I want to see more on this deal. ByteDance still owns 19.9%, which is what the law required. The algorithm is owned by the U.S. Aspect, but the marketing and there's some weird language in here that allows ByteDance to continue the marketing, which again, that's propaganda. That's China. I mean, I'm still like, I'm not sold yet.
Another buzzy story. Let's see. The Brown University, a person of interest, the man suspected in the shooting at the school has been found dead, we heard overnight in New Hampshire, a New Hampshire storage facility. This is according to AP. The suspect was also suspected of killing an MIT professor. He died by suicide. This is a Portuguese man, 48 years old, still no motive.
And a Brown graduate.
Yes. Was he a graduate or did
I don't know if he graduated? He looked like PhD courses. Yeah.
This is all like it's a saga. Let's be honest here. Sean, is this going to fuel a lot of like conspiratorial thinking? Do you think right now there's already a lot of
so there's
skepticism on how this was handled?
Right. And I mean, so you've got two issues. The motives of the shooter, what's the connection between Ella Cook and the other gentleman who were killed at Brown and the MIT professor, right? The MIT professor is Jewish. So is there an anti-Semitic, but the professor who did the class again, there's enough. Yes, there's a whole stuff on the victims and the shooter's motives. Okay. That's one. Two, as I've said before, then you're going to have a whole thing that Elise Stefanik brought up, which is what did Brown University do to or should have done to take steps to protect the students? What were their priorities? I.e., we know that they were DEI focused and not student based. And so there's two separate things that are going to fuel speculation in those respective buckets.
I mean, I'll just say, look, it appears it had absolutely nothing to do with politics. It appears. And hopefully this will prevent people in the future from kind of knee jerking to the instant,
Well, can I ask this? I guess my question is, as much as we should refrain right now, and I agree with we don't know, but why wouldn't we know? Like in the same way that we shouldn't speculate, why is it? And I'm asking this seriously. Why would we say that there's nothing to point to that it doesn't have anything to do with politics?
Because I just think that so often right now, people try to interject that our tribe is targeted, and there are instances like where I believe in the Charlie Kirk case, like it's pretty apparent that was the case. But in many instances, like we don't know. This guy is a super complicated. Sure. Yeah. And so I just, it makes me,
I'm agreeing with you to the extent that we shouldn't speculate. But if we shouldn't speculate that there were political motives, we shouldn't equally speculate that there weren't political motives. We should say, I think the blanket statement is, we should let the investigation play out. And
wasn't the other student who was killed at Brown? He was a Muslim student as well. So
yeah, and I mean, I also
anyway.
just say that I think Kristi Noem's reaction of banning this stuff is ridiculous because it's.
I forgot I was going to mention that.
Yeah, it's apples to oranges. I mean, Trump brags about we want these best and brightest coming in, the H-1B visa. We have to, people don't have these skills. He says this guy came as part of a PhD program. Like that is what we talk about of these like highly skilled people. And he had a beef with an MIT professor. So now we're going to freeze the whole program?
No. The program they're freezing is the DV1, which is a diversity lottery.
Yeah, but it's the same principle, which is right. But it's the same principle, which is people who want to come here to study in our universities, which is kind of what people have talked about, are the folks that we want. It just seems like it's a blanket excuse to stop this thing. To me, that seems silly.
Let's move on, guys. We got a ton of stuff to get to. One more item still in the day book. It's D-Day for the Epstein files. The remainder of the unclassified files are set to be released. I know this is a very, minority thought, but I have always sort of wondered if this is just going to be a big dud. You have people sort of leaking things on opponents right now. In the meantime, the New York Post has a scoop about Bill Clinton demanding to bring Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to a wedding of Morocco's king. It's a story about that, basically talking about his relationship with Epstein. And then there's a New York Times story on President Trump and his relationship with Epstein, and has all these nuggets suggesting that they would regale each other with tales of their sexual exploits. Dan, is this going to change anyone's mind? Do you think we're going to see any big bombshells come out today?
I mean, I don't think we'll see any big bombshells, but like everyone, I'm curious, just as a Page 6 reader and stuff of life. But no, I mean, look, I think I read the New York Times story last night. Obviously, there are others. If you, I don't think it's going to be news that Donald Trump, liked to party and likes women, and that's pretty baked in. Same thing with Bill Clinton. I don't think that's necessarily news. I don't believe there will be anything in there unless something is super bombshell about the president, where you're going to be like, aha, my view of him really changes. You either like him or you don't. I think this just plays to form.
Sean, I feel like for the right, if there's no big bombshell, this almost continues this sort of fervor around this, right? Like
and the left,
a concern that people are that the government is hiding things.
And the left, they got the same thought.
And the left too. Okay, I mean,
yeah, this is Geraldo cracking Capone's safe all over again. We're going to open it up, and there's nothing there, and people are going to go, the government's hiding stuff. First of all, I would say this: assuming DOJ drops I was having flashbacks when I used to work with the comms director for the House Government and Oversight Committee. We had subpoenaed all these Whitewater documents, and Friday nights at 5:00, literally a white government truck would back up from the White House, and it would be like, here's 500 boxes. And we'd spend Friday night combing through them. So my guess is that at 5:00 tonight on a Friday night, we got a boatload of documents, but then someone's going to have to sift through them. Yeah. And so, the big thing is today is the drop, but I have a feeling that we'll get dribbles for the next few days. But I haven't, everyone that I talked to that's in the know is like, it's going to be a lot of just maybe a couple little things here and there that so-and-so visited something, but no one that I'm talking to is expecting any big bombshells.
Well, it might give us something to talk about on Monday if there's no news over the weekend. Okay,
this is going to be, what it's going to do is exactly what you asked, which is everyone's going to say, see, there's no list and I didn't see it. And therefore the government's covering it up.
Yeah, the story will continue, but it has faded a bit from the headlines. So I guess we'll see if it sort of reignites. Okay, let's talk headlines here. Ending government funding for minor transitioning care. So RFK rolled this out yesterday. This is an order basically barring hospitals that participate in these sorts of surgeries, which Republicans would argue are sort of mutilation of kids, from getting government money for if they allow these procedures. Now, the one thing I will say on this, Sean, is that I'm actually surprised it took them this long, because this is an issue that I think that even on the Democratic side, there are a lot of Democrats who are uncomfortable with this, a lot of Democratic voters who are uncomfortable with this. I mean, you can't smoke until you're 18, can't drink till you're 21, can't serve in the military, and yet you can get these sort of surgeries as a minor that are unreversible.
Unreversible, that's the key line, right?
Yeah. And there's a question about, like, are kids able to make such a decision at a young age when they're still maturing? Do you know why they are doing this like right now, right before the holidays?
I don't. It's a good question in terms of timing, but I think there's two issues that are. First of all, I mean, obviously, this was cheered by a lot of folks on the right, especially the cultural right-leaning groups that have championed this. So this is great. I think this kind of mirrors the Mexico City Hyde language that we talk about a lot. The idea of using government funds for things like this, to me, taxpayer funds, shouldn't be I mean, there's certain things that I just don't understand how how taxpayer funds can be justified for. This is one of them. The second thing, to your point, when you are, whether a parent is consenting or not, to allow a child to have a life-altering, unreversible procedure done, I think is a huge mistake. And there's so much of money to be made in the pharmaceutical world for this, that I always say everything comes back to power and money. And you look at what's happened in this industry. It's all about getting kids to move over to, somewhere where the pharmaceutical industry then not only has something been changed irreversibly medically, but then they're on the hook for the lifetime of a bunch of meds, which makes a ton of people money. This was the right decision. I don't know what took so long.
Dan, I was texting. So folks know, I actually texted Dan this morning. I was like, what is your thinking on this? Just very curious where he comes down. And he confided that it's initially he sort of has struggled with. Dan, like, tell us about, how this is like you're torn between like your libertarian self, freedoms for everyone, but then also the fact that they're kids.
Yeah, you kind of said a bunch of the stuff here. Like I did. My wife and I were talking about this. I know this has been a topic here in the city amongst parents because it's a pretty progressive city. And so, people know folks whose kids have made changes. But I go back to what you said earlier, which is we have laws about when kids can drive, when kids can vote, can serve in war, can drink alcohol. There's a series of things because as a rule, we say, look, kids from a maturity standpoint, you go through a lot of changes when you're a teenager. And, whether it's changing your hair or your fashion or what you like or you dislike, how you see yourself. Like we have 4 teenagers in our house right now and we're watching it. This is such a big step. And I think that by erring on the side of caution, which is to say, to not allow kids or to provide government funding for something of this nature, I think is the appropriate thing. And I think that while some kids probably are truly, I think statistically, they say like 1.5% of kids are kind of born in the wrong body. I think having, he or she wait till they're 18 or whatever, to then you're an adult, you will be, you do what you want to do. While that kind of harms, so to speak, the benefit of so many people who may in their kind of adolescence and teenage years make a decision that they would regret, like getting a tattoo suddenly, a few years later. I think the benefit of delaying to make sure they're adults and kind of sound mind versus the harm of a few people who are probably ready for this and will ultimately do it and be happy. I would side on, supporting this. And Sean, I'm not so certain Democrats will overturn this in a few years. I think most parents are uneasy when they think of their kids making a life-altering decision at 13, 14, right, 15, even 16. I mean, especially
you don't think
boys tend to not be too mature at that age. I think
he doesn't think Democrats will overturn it.
Yeah. So Mexico City, you're a Democrat gets elected, as a rule, they say first day they'll sign the EO saying, I'm going to overturn the executive order. I don't know if a Democrat would overturn this. I really don't.
Can I share something else that, sort of weighs on me when I think about this issue? A few years ago, I was talking to my colleagues who have kids that are in high school, and they were just sort of almost joking about how, at their kids' school, the cool thing right now is to, transition. Yeah. And that there is like almost a peer pressure that these kids can be sort of popular or, get some sort of attention if they do this. And like that I remember thinking about that and being like, whoa, like that's like considered a cool thing. And obviously we live in Washington, D.C. or outside of Washington, D.C. We're a very liberal area, but like, again, going to this, like a huge change, you can't reverse. What is the thinking behind this? Like, is it a bid to be attention or popularity? Like, it's it's obviously very complicated, but
that's the thing. I think it was the New York Times, and I'll go back and look to put it in the chat. In the New York Times, I think in 21 or 22 said that at one point 20% of New York City middle schoolers identified as transitioning. When
20%.
when
big.
statistically it is like 1.5, 2. So even if that story is off by 10% or whatever, it did, the perception amongst a lot of people in New York City was that it became a fad.
Yeah.
And that was what was kind of, to parents were like, whoa, okay. But now you're talking surgery. But as you say, Sean, is, if it's not irreversible, it's very hard to reverse. And so that's where I think the idea of, again, the government providing funding to support kids making decisions that, you want to dress the other way and kind of go through this, that's between you and your family. But surgery is a bigger deal. And again, we have laws on the books about when kids can and cannot do something that I think are appropriate. And I would support this.
Let's move on because we have a lot to get to still. I can't remember if it was Dan or Sean who called this last week, but we were talking at one point about how the Kennedy Center was going to be renamed. Dan,
yeah,
and Sean agreed. That happened yesterday. The administration announced that there was apparently a quote unanimous vote to rename the Art Center the Trump Kennedy Center. For those not aware, that's the big arts center here in Washington, D.C., where you go see the ballet and Philharmonic, etc. Look,
and it's a big point of pride within the Kennedy family that thing is named after them. It is,
of course. Well, he still got part of it. It's the Trump Kennedy Center, Dan. Look, for me, I just kind of roll my eyes at this, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that a lot of people don't like it, including, by the way, I've seen a lot of traffic from prominent Republicans. Eric Erickson saying this is just so third world African kleptocracy. Am I saying that right? Yeah. So, and then Janet Ellis, who obviously was a long time Trump ally, although she's critic now. She's critical of him these days.
And just also, in fairness, so is Eric. I mean, like,
fair enough. But let me just read what she said. She said, "I didn't vote for tacky revenge plaques and renaming buildings and cheap shots at murdered political opponents. I voted for We the People, not Trump's ego tour and staff glamour shots in Vanity Fair." Sean, could this be an optics issue? Does it look like he's focusing too much on some of this like pettier stuff than actually dealing with the issues of everyday Americans?
No. I think the funny thing is, look, here's what I'll tell you. And this is a much longer discussion, but I have long maintained that one of the biggest things about Trump in modern history, being the only person to not serve consecutive term, is when you're out of office, you have an opportunity to think, what do I do if I get back? And this is Trump putting his stamp all over the government and saying people generally don't have time to think through all this stuff. In the first term, we ignored culture. We just were like, he didn't attend the Kennedy Center. We didn't attend any events and just sort of ceded the ground. This time, Trump understands that if we want to play on our side, we've got to address the whole ecosphere. We got to be in culture. We've got to be. So this is him, I think, saying, you know what? We're not just going to cede the ground to the left on a lot of these things in these places and these issues and things like that. And you saw it in the Kennedy Center honors that will air in a couple nights. And this is what this is what a second Trump term where he's had time to reflect looks like.
Dan, before I come to you, let's pull up our first element for the show. We've got some sound from Joyce Beatty, who was a board member, and she says she was forcibly muted when she tried to object to this. Let's bring that up.
I was on that call, and as I tried to push my button to voice my concern, to ask questions, and certainly not to vote in support of this, I was muted. Each time I tried to speak, I was muted. Participants were not allowed to voice their concerns who were online.
Makes you wonder who else was muted when they made that vote. Dan, do you think it benefits Democrats to be talking about this, or does this also look silly for them to be obsessing over?
I think it looks silly to obsess over because at the end of the day, it's the name of of a building in Washington, D.C. But I will say this, in the bigger picture, I don't think Americans love that Trump is, doing these plaques, putting his name on everything. He reportedly not reportedly, Caroline Leavitt basically said it. He wants the football stadium in Washington, D.C. to be named after him. There's a movement to name Dulles Airport amongst some in his cabinet now. It is fundamentally un-American to kind of go around and start sticking your name on everything. I get it as a developer, as a business person, it's smart business. But I think that he runs the risk that if he keeps this pace up, in 3 years, when JD Vance presumably or whoever is running, that you get that exhaustion and that fatigue where it's just like, I don't want this anymore. And I know he'll be leaving the stage, but for a party, then it's a stench that sticks to you. So I think in that regard, it's another nugget in that narrative.
Let's move on to the DNC. They announced yesterday they're going to be killing their 2024 autopsy.
Burying
not going to release it. Just not going to release it, which is
funny how you want to release the Epstein docs, but you don't want to release your own autopsy.
Yeah,
Sean's just getting warm. Just wait.
Yeah, it's a bonkers move because they not only lost the election, but they lost a popular vote to President Trump. Like, it's anyway, we'll get to it in a second. So this obviously comes after the chair, Ken Martin, said in February he would have no problem releasing this. Changed his mind there. The stated reason that they're giving is that they don't want to release something that is backward looking and that would just divide the party and be counterproductive at a time when Democrats are starting to get their mojo back. But Dan, that sounds like a bunch of BS. Let's just be honest.
Yep.
What is going on here, Dan?
I mean, it's first off, just it is ridiculous because look, you want transparency. You want people, whether they're political animals or novices, to read it and then, innovate, come up with your ideas, think of how can we fix this? What is the new thing, right? It's kind of like let a thousand flowers bloom. So when this hit yesterday, X lit up. I mean, I think we have an element here of,
we can bring that up right now.
Yeah. Of Dan Pfeiffer, who obviously worked in President Obama, across the spectrum. You also had political, people who are with other politicians, thinking of 28 political leaders saying stuff in public. In private, text chains lit up. Like, WTF, what are we doing? And as the night went on last night, there was one camp that was very, very quiet in private and certainly in public. And that was Kamala Harris's team. And if you think about who has the incentive to not have this come out right now, it is Kamala Harris's team. And so I would say and I think you're going to see more of this later today, Kamala Harris, if she wants to run and wants to be a leader in our party, you need to come out and demand this be made public for the good of our party. Don't fear it. This plays to her form. We've always talked about how cautious and indecisive and uncertain she is. She doesn't want this out.
Yeah.
So I said yesterday, or the other day, about the calendar, who DNC members are still primarily Biden-Harris people. Everyone else in the party thinks this is an insane idea. And Ken Martin, I believe, is taking the arrows, perhaps, for Kamala Harris.
That's just a little more color on this. Dan Pfeiffer, we just showed that tweet. It's a very bad decision that reeks of caution and complacency that brought us to this moment. You've got David Hogg out there saying, are we not going to talk about the fact that Mike Donilon received $4 million from the Biden-Harris campaign? He should return all that money to the DNC.
Plus interest.
Sean, you've been part of one of these reports for the RNC, right? Did you help write it or just oversee the role?
Sean's not a doctor, but he played a role in an autopsy.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn. So after the 2012 election, Reince Priebus, then chairman, initiated this. We got a lot of blowback. People are like, we shouldn't air our dirty laundry out there.
Yeah.
But to Dan's point, you need donor confidence. You need stakeholder buy-in to say, again, the funny part about these things, if you do them right, in the military, every exercise, you do a hot wash, 3 up, 3 down. What did we do right? What can we improve on? That's how you should. I've told people all the time, that's how I live my life. We all get off the show every day. What topics did we cover? What did we do really well? What worked? If you're doing your job professionally or personally, I do that sometimes in interactions. I'll go to an event. The next time I go to one of those, I got to walk in, say something to the host right away. I mean, but if you're a smart person, you're living your life saying, what am I doing well to sustain? What can I improve on professionally and personally? And Reince made a choice that after 2012, for the confidence stakeholders, grass tops, grassroots, donors, that we needed to do this. And not everybody was on board. But here's the beautiful thing. If you do it right, and this is why this idea of like, oh, it's just about what, how we, we shouldn't look backwards. No, go read the Growth and Opportunity Report. Yeah. There were 250 recommendations. We as a party, and it wasn't just what did we do wrong, we talked about writ large. Yeah. So for example, Data Trust grew out of the Growth and Opportunity Project. America Rising, the opposition research outfit, came out of the Growth and Opportunity Report. We basically reflected and got everybody to give us input. What do we need to do to grow and be better, right? And so if you do this right, and this tells me that the DNC didn't do it right, because if they're worried about just airing dirty laundry, then they're not actually going in and saying, hey, we did these things really well. Like we raised money well, we got low dollars well. Here's how we can grow that further or build on it. And then here's how we improve. And again, we looked at and said, hey, we need to figure out how do we encourage outside groups to, and again, I'm not saying this, but like a Turning Point USA, how do you empower outside groups be part of the movement? And if you do it right, that's what you end up getting. And I think we are a better and stronger, not just party, but movement because of the Growth and Opportunity Project post 2012. And the DNC clearly didn't learn that.
Dan, can't part of this also be, and I know there's some suspicion that they're trying to protect some of these top officials and Harris, et cetera. But like the party, they also have different conclusions on why they lost, right? I mean, like the left thinks they didn't move far enough left. The center thinks that, Harris's old positions, that she never came out and justified changing her positions. Like I'm thinking about decriminalizing border crossings. She just like changed her position on that, gave no explanation, and never ever spoke to why she changed her thinking. Like there was a bunch of liberal positions like that were problematic for her and that she never explained. Like a report talking about that, though, would get huge blowback from the left, which is ascending right now. So like, I guess I'm just curious, like, can you even have certain conclusions in an autopsy when like the party has no idea policy wise what the takeaway should be?
But this is, and Sean, you didn't mention this, but this is why you have to put it out. You put out on the tactical, strategic side of infrastructure, fundraising, and everything. Sean just talked about that. The post-Romney autopsy also had some policy ideas, right? One of them was that the party should be more welcoming to Hispanics and basically lean in toward like a more of a pro-immigration message. Well, one of the things that happened was you had some candidates, Jeb Bush and stuff, who said, I agree with that. I'm going to champion that. You had other candidates like Donald Trump who said, no, I think that's a terrible idea. You have to let that fight happen, right? So if the report says, look, she didn't take a stand and our focus group showed that angered voters. So, you could say our recommendation is she should have taken a stand with X, or you say not taking a stand. So again, if you're the Harris people, this is why you don't want that out, because it's like, hey, Kamala, why would you not choose a lane here? But you should not fear the fight. You should say, we will let it happen, that all the steam blow out of the kettle. And don't say that the smarty pants in DC, in the DNC or the RNC in that case, know the answers. Only we can get the data. Only we know how to process it. And only we know how to make recommendations to win. Donald Trump shows you outsiders will come up with their own idea, and the voters will decide if those candidates have the right message. And it's not just for president. And this is where I think this is getting lost. If I'm running for Congress in 2026, I want to see this. What mechanically worked, and just go, you're running for governor, mayor, whatever. This is just the insanity of it's another mark on Ken Martin's, frankly, disgraceful chairmanship. I don't know what he's done well. And I can give you 15 things he's done poorly.
A lot of people unhappy with him. We have two more topics to hit, and it's we've got 20 more minutes left here in the show. So we'll move quickly on Mamdani. This is hot on the right.
No, we'll go a little longer.
Maybe we'll go a little longer today. It is Friday.
Friday.
This story's hot on the right. A top Mamdani official overseeing appointments, Catherine DaCosta. She resigned following discovery of these past anti-Semitic tweets. I'm not going to read them because they're really gross.
Not just anti-Semitic.
Oh, maybe I just saw the anti-Semitic.
Yeah, she talks about police in a not very friendly way.
Oh, Okay, so just a note for folks, he's got what, 2 weeks left before he becomes
January 1st.
mayor, and apparently he's already very behind, and this woman was apparently in charge of, like, overseeing appointments. But Dan, shouldn't this stuff, you would think they would catch this stuff before they name people, or is this just gonna be the first of probably a lot of these issues that are gonna arise because he's trying to move quickly?
Well, there's two different things here. I mean, look, Sean knows this. When you're staffing a government, I don't believe that Mamdani is sitting there with every single appointee. Of course not. But what's the worry with Mamdani, right? There's two things. Here in New York, there is a lot of anxiety about how he's going to treat the Jewish community, of which there is a massive one here in terms of protection and making sure that they feel safe during a time when they, rightfully are pretty nervous. And then the other issue is police. How supportive of the New York City police as crime has started to get a little bit back under control in this city here. It's also a problem bigger for the Democratic Party, because as Mamdani is becoming in the news, as he's becoming a leader in our coalition, as Republicans are going to try to elevate him, the fear is that some of the more extreme wings of his coalition become seen as the mainstream. And I think when you have someone who's the head of appointees and some of those tweets, I mean, it's more than one. Like, she had multiple tweets on topics about Jews and about, the cops, or as she called them, piggies, on several occasions, that, like, behind the scenes, is she and this team, this is how they really think. And Mamdani kind of kept the lid on it and was nimble during the campaign. But it gives Democrats heartburn when you see this stuff, because who else is out there?
Hakeem Jeffries, glad that he's not in the house today to be asked about this.
Yeah,
Sean, real quick, your take on this, and then we're going to move.
I'll sum this up. Guess what, New York? You got what you voted for. You voted for an anti-police, anti-Semitic nut job on the left, and now you're going, hey, he can't do this well. He can't staff it, and if you're wondering why, told you.
Erica Kirk last night told Turning Points USA Today that she and the group are going to work to elect J.D. Vance as president in 2028. It's not super surprising given Charlie's close relationship with Vance, and that he has sort of helped Vance become vice president, and in part by advocating for him behind the scenes. But the bigger headline out of the first day of the conference yesterday was this sort of MAGA civil war that we saw playing out. You had Ben Shapiro going after people by name on stage. My understanding he was like the first speaker after Erica Kirk. He name-checked Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Steve Bannon, and called them frauds and grifters, accused them of trying to monetize MAGA. Let's bring up the third element, this headline. One of the quotes was, "The conservative movement is in danger from charlatans who claim to speak in the name of principle, but actually traffic and conspiracy and dishonesty." That, like, this is just, I mean, Shapiro has become increasingly critical of Tucker in recent weeks, obviously. But I'm shocked that he, went after Megyn Kelly by name, went after Steve Bannon by name.
Sean, by the way, all these people are speaking at Turning Point USA. Like, they're all arriving if they're not there already.
Yeah.
So,
and I think Tucker, he was on a little bit later, and he pushed back on Shapiro and basically accused him of using the conference to push censorship, which is obviously not what Republicans, stand for. Sean, we know that Charlie in a lot of ways was sort of the glue that held this coalition together. And it feels like we're sort of seeing this power vacuum in this war. Who's going to replace him, and what's the ideology here? I mean, doesn't this weaken the coalition in general, or do you think this is healthy, like, for the party and trying to figure out the next moves, or how do you see all this? Because it's
I mean, anyone who's known, I've said this forever. I'm not a fan of red on red. I just don't understand why we do it. But going back to Dan's point and the autopsy point, which again, I hate that word. But sometimes a family has to go through that. And we've seen it with Occupy Wall Street, the Tea Party movement. You need to talk, go through it. No one will ever replace Charlie Kirk, full stop. There will not be a singular person, 5 people, 10 people. He was a once in a lifetime kind of movement leader individual. So no one will replace him. I get Ben's point. I respect Ben a lot, especially what he has built and what they do. But I wish this wasn't happening on a stage that everybody got to see. There's a better way to do this. And ironically, I think Erica has shown a great deal of maturity and poise, and maybe that becomes her calling card, which is to say, here's what we need to do from this stage. You will not, we will not propagate conspiracy theories and crazy stuff, but we'll also not criticize each other. She could be a super huge helpful person in this movement, as she already has been. But I just don't like sitting up on stage and going after people. We need more people in a movement, a lot less people in a movement.
Dan, Democrats love to bicker, but they haven't seen anything like this. The very personal attacks on each other.
Well, we have, but the thing is, on the one hand, we don't have a Turning Point USA. This is something that we've talked about now, kind of all year. Like, we didn't have a Charlie Kirk. We don't have a huge, Netroots at one point 10, 15 years ago kind of tried to play that role. But we don't have a godfather the way Charlie Kirk was. And I think, you hit it, which is like, I love the Godfather movie. When the Don gets shot, there's a rush to fill the void. I think some of this is, we need to be honest, as part of there's a lot of money on the line. Charlie was a podcaster. He had a huge grassroots organization. And I think a lot of people want to be the heir apparent. They want to try to get a piece of this. But I think the bigger issue is, Erica Kirk endorsed J.D. Vance. And if that was Charlie Kirk up there endorsing J.D. Vance and the organization was humming, it'd be a huge deal. And part of the question is, what is Turning Point USA in the next few years? And the longer this bickering goes on, the question is, who can stop it? Who is the adult in there? Is it J.D. Vance? Now, there's a lot of risk as a candidate if you start picking sides, because you got people like Ted Cruz that would love to come in and divide, pick, get half of this crowd, a third of the crowd, a fifth of the crowd with me. So as a Democrat, one of our problems has been Turning Point USA is there and growing and getting stronger. If they start to weaken or atrophy for us as we're trying to figure out our future, it gives us a better chance to be successful because the other side is fighting and weakening.
Let's take a few questions. At your request, this is a new segment. We're gonna.
Told you one day I want to be.
We're looking at different.
Dan was auditioning for a New York Post headline writer.
Yeah. Yes.
We're gonna do this every day, every morning, 6 a.m. We're gonna post on the Huddle account. If you don't follow it, the DC Huddle, follow us on X. We are gonna ask for your questions, and every day we're gonna pick, 2 questions. So if something's on your mind and you're like, God, I want to make sure they address it.
But also, we're also looking in the YouTube chat and the
we're getting them all. We're getting them all. Well, not them all, but we're picking some from the different platforms. So we'll start with James here. Hi, James Meacham. He wants to know our thoughts, and I think Sean wants to weigh in on this, especially on this story. For those of you who are not familiar, a Wisconsin judge was found guilty of obstructing. Obstructing an arrest of Trump immigration. What was it?
Yeah, it was a local judge was basically tried to rush an illegal immigrant out the back door.
Oh, that's right. I remember the story.
When ICE was
that's there. Right. And so it was found guilty. Sean, do you want to start?
Good. Yeah, good. I'll keep it tight. Good. I think the idea that a judge took I'm trying to think of what's the legal term. So somebody who was brought in under, and said, I'm not going to even adjudicate this. I'm going to take you out the back door. You can't. I mean, that's just antithetical to being a judge. Yeah. So to me, I'm glad that we're seeing this. It is amazing to me, just as a side note, the number of people that I'll have on the show that are lawyers, and I'll ask them a simple question. Hey, as a non-lawyer, how does X happen? Like, how does And they'll say, well, in the world of Trump, these lawyers, I mean, like when you think back to the cases that Trump got prosecuted on New York. I'm like, wait, if the statute of limitations says 5 years and is past it, how do you bring a case? And they go, you're right. And so what we've seen in the era of Trump is just unbelievable lawfare and weaponization of the judicial system. I'm glad at least this judge in this case is paying the consequences.
Yeah, you just can't.
Anything you want to add?
You just can't do that. This is the part of the party that, it goes back to this idea of good trouble. You can't do this. You just can't have judges doing this.
We got another one from Twitter.
Yep.
Not Twitter. X. Sorry.
Dr. John.
Dr. John.
How does the long, true but now unveiled merger of state and corporate power And he lists all these different things. Impact both policy and politics moving forward for both parties. He's talking about Intel, Tay Fusion. Who wants to take this one?
Oh, this is Dan.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this is something. It's a fascinating part of Trump 2.0, which is just the fact that the Donald Trump media company is out there which his kids are a part of, are out there doing doing deals. This is what owns Truth Social. While he's the sitting president, that in and of itself, the crypto money is crazy. But what we haven't talked a lot about, and I don't really know where this is going to go, are all these stakes the government is taking in private enterprises. I mean, if you're a Trump supporter, you may say, look, I trust Scott Bessent, I trust Howard Lutnick, I trust Donald Trump. But how are you going to feel if it's Gavin Newsom and Pete Buttigieg? Well, but I mean, once you set this precedent,
I'm with you.
It also, by the way, is also known as socialism, which is the government, is now in it. If you own 10% of something, you can say we're not a voting member of the board, but come on now. You are a voting member of the board, whether it's official or unofficial. I'm horrified by it. I hope more Americans start to say, this is just not who we are. We are not China. We don't take equity stakes in our companies.
The only thing I'll say is, and I quasi agree with Dan, is I worry about the future. At some point in my lifetime, there will be a Democrat, and will they take a stake in Smith and Wesson and say, okay, we are now owning a part of a gun company and trying to ban the manufacture of guns, or we're going to take a stake in Netflix and we're going to make sure that we propagate DEI woke more, probably not some more programming in a telecom or so. I worry about this not in the near future, but what happens in future administrations when someone on the left says, hey, let's do this and push our agenda.
Do you?
And I also want to say, like, if Gavin Newsom is president and his kids all start opening private equity funds and doing this, I mean, just people were upset with, Hunter Biden selling a few paintings. You're now talking about outright selling, doing deals with people who are under government review, who rely on some government money. You're setting the precedent.
I was going to say, like, has the White House, like, has the admin, a lot of Republicans uncomfortable with this, right, Sean? Like, are they hearing this? Are they like thinking twice about continuing to do this? Or like full steam ahead?
Full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. Okay. Let's take some questions from the chat.
Yes.
Question. Any takes on Jack Smith or the judge found guilty for trying to let an illegal escape? Okay, we just talked about that. So we'll talk about any takes on Jack Smith. The fact that it took a whole year for the first guilty verdict, and W meaning win for DOJ.
Yeah.
Took a whole year for the first guilty verdict.
I'm trying to, is the guilty verdict the judge or is it Jack? I mean, so Jack Smith was brought in front, was deposed yesterday, House Judiciary Committee.
Right.
Jim Jordan and again, we talked about this a little yesterday. I'm a fan of that. I think that was great to expose what happened, why, explain the timing of what he did. And then we mentioned the judge. So as Forrest Gump would say, I don't have anything more to say on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I think Jack Smith's, you pulled what you wanted to pull from it. Both sides got what they wanted.
Let's do another one. Rachel, the post Ronnie autopsy was full of bad ideas. Not everyone agreed with. Doesn't mean you should bury it. Why even do it then? I mean, Sean, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see, Barron, what bad ideas. Again, the idea wasn't to dictate things, and this is where sometimes people missed it. The goal, not just the goal, but what happened in the post 2012 Growth and Opportunity Project was we went out and met with stakeholders and said, what do you think we could do better? What do you think? And the idea was to be inclusive, to say some people didn't feel like they were bought in on what the party was doing, how the party was operating, college Republicans, young chapters of different organizations, minority organizations that tried to be part of it. The idea was to get people to say, you give us your thoughts. And it wasn't a mandate. It wasn't, we have to do this or it was a collective group of recommendations that we put out and said, okay, guys, here's what people are saying. that I don't understand. Like I said, if you are a good person or a good professional, you should constantly be soliciting advice, feedback. What can I do better? What did I do really well? And that doesn't mean you take every piece of advice. We read a lot of stuff in the chat, or we get emails that say, hey guys, do this, do that. Sometimes we say but it's worth thinking of and reflecting on. And I just think when you say not everyone agreed with it, you're right.
And that's the point.
The point is not to get universal agreement. It's to get feedback and to think about how can you be better at doing something, anything.
Well, and it's also just, again, it's not the smartest people in the room are average people everywhere. Like you just let people run with it. This is how you get innovation and new ideas.
So I'll tell you a funny story real quick. We hired a guy from, it's hard to believe this, but back
I got a guy.
Welcome to Rhode Island. We were behind as a party what the Dems were doing technologically wise. So we put out a call and basically just said, if you're a conservative that really is into tech and you think you can help us. And we got an email literally from a guy in Silicon Valley and said, hey, I'm actually a conservative. I think I can help you guys. Here's what my background is. Very impressive. Reached out, flew him out to RNC headquarters and said, okay, open up the hood. We wouldn't be where we are technologically wise and data wise if we hadn't solicited input. Too often, the party was very myopic and said, if you're not part of the system, we're not going to hire you. We're not going to talk to you. And we opened that aperture and said, you know what? Let's put out the call. And a lot of people, and the same thing happened with minority groups that said, I can help grow. I have an idea. We didn't take every idea. We couldn't pay for everyone, but we said, we welcome your ideas. And I think we are a better party. We are a better movement because of that.
Dan, do you think that they changed their mind on this and end up releasing it?
I think you're going to see, look, this is where the 2028 knives may start moving around.
Yeah.
I have the answer.
Yeah. I think
yes, they will.
Yeah.
So here's my answer, Dan. Tell me what you think. I think that they have a public version.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the big things is
the other version will leak.
But one of the questions is, one of the things people want to see is, what did they look at? I mean, that is going to be part of the thing. Is it's going to put the DNC in a very uncomfortable position of, why did you cook it? And again, who are people going to turn? Who is driving these decisions to make? I get it's going to be a family fight, but we have to have it because of just the position we're in. The position we're in because of attitudes like this.
By the way, one of the things, we weren't perfect, again, because someone's going to say,
nobody is.
But we reached out to groups and said, if you have some input, we'll try to meet with you. And again, and that was the beauty of it, is it wasn't like, hey, let's surround ourselves with all of our buddies to tell us we're great. It was, if you think that we're doing a crappy job, somebody will talk to you and listen to you. And that didn't mean that you got 5 hours, but we went around the country. We got outside. We told a lot of the folks on the commission that Ryan's appointed, go listen to people, go engage with them. And like I said, not perfect, but I think we're better because of it.
Let's take another one. Who has the strongest chance of displacing JD Vance as the GOP candidate?
Great question, Bums.
I think it partly depends on where the Trump standing is in 2 years.
As of right now, would you say?
As of right now, see, this is interesting because we talked about this with the Democrat. You got Gavin Newsom and then whatever. If you think about who tier 2 is in the Republican Party outside of JD, I would say DeSantis has shown an ability to raise money. Ted Cruz has a following. I'm literally going through my head right now. Marco, I think, would be very strong.
I think Marco would be really strong,
right?
But he won't run against JD.
Right, but that's why I'm saying I don't know that.
I think the name that I would say, because you just named, Rubio is going to have the same problems that Vance would have, which is they are Trump people now. Person I would watch for is Sarah Huckabee Sanders, because she's close enough in the tent, but she's sitting outside of this. And so if there's stench on Trump and Vance and Rubio, I think she could finesse the, like, I worked for Trump, but I wasn't part of Trump 2.0.
Well, look,
she's going to run at some point, right?
Sarah will be. My guess is that she will be the VP candidate, and if she's not, then she will be the nominee at some point soon. But I will. The one thing I would say to Dan is I don't think Sarah would take on one of the.
It's only if they're weakened. It's only if they sense they're so weak. There's an open that's why I'm saying I think it's totally Vance or Rubio. But if Trump is in a not great position and Vance and Rubio are struggling, like their stench, I think she could finesse that, right? Like to be the bridge.
Interesting. Yeah. Good question. Fun.
But I will say this. That being said, I think that I just can't see a world where any of that happens. I think that like JD literally would have to say, I have no interest in doing this.
Yeah. Except Cruz will run against him. I mean, I think we're getting the signs that Cruz is definitely going to run against him.
Yep.
At least I would put my money on that. Okay, let's take one more question.
It's Friday.
Dan, it's for you.
Yeah.
How do unhappy independent voters let the DNC know that Ken Martin needs to step down? I think a lot of Democrats would like that too.
I think you follow the money. Don't give your money. Don't attend, functions, because ultimately, if there's no one in the room and there's no money in the bank, physics will work itself out.
I want to endorse everything that Dan just said. Do not give your money to the DNC.
Give it to the DCCC, the DSCC.
But I will say this: the interesting thing about your question, Anna, is when you're out of power, in this case, the Democrats, the chair only generally cares about the people that can determine whether they stay chair or not. Meaning, the Dems, we have a 168 that governs the RNC. I forgot how many there are.
30 something or whatever. Yeah.
A lot more on the Dem side. And that's who the chairman generally cares about, because that's the person that's their board of directors.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to say, I thought there would be some sort of effort to replace him earlier this year, Dan, because he was out there whining about like, oh, it's so hard being chair. I don't know if I want to do this job. After he got the job, it's like, suck it up, Buttercup. I mean, like,
but it goes to Sean's point,
right?
But it goes to Sean's point. It's all that matters is the DNC voting members. They didn't want to go through this. There were things that he promised people that they were like, hey, let me see if he does this because I have my own interest. And don't forget, now the problem would be the 2028ers would all start navigating to get their person in there. And you don't want Gavin Newsom's person or Rahm Emanuel's person, or so like, okay, he may not be good, but it's better than like this knife fight. But
I would say this to really put a pin in this whole thing, and going back to the question at hand. If I were an enterprising reporter, of which I'm not sure there's, I would
what
call.
What are you trying to say there, Sean?
Well, no, I mean, like, this is a story where, like, if like someone who actually wanted to know, I'd pick 20 influential DNC members and call them and say, would you support an alternative to Ken Martin? Because that's the only way that will work, is if there's a movement within the sort of grass top leaders of that board to get him out. But outside of that, it's not going to happen.
And would those leaders, as you said, Dan, are all Biden-Harris people? So maybe they don't want that. Yeah. All right, guys. That's all we have time for today. Sean, anything you want to flag?
Yeah. So we touched on this, but tonight, Tim Parlatore, who I've had on the show several times as a Navy JAG officer to explain Venezuela, whatever, is also represented Trump he was the attorney when Mar-a-Lago was raided. The FBI has now come out and said that we did not have the grounds for the subpoena. That was him. He was the attorney. I'm going to break it down with him, that Mar-a-Lago raid, plus the pot decision. What does that mean for citizens yesterday for the declassification of pot from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3? What does that mean legally for average citizens and for those serving in the military? Because it's actually, I did a lot of calls yesterday about this. It's very interesting what this really means and versus what it was reported, right? And there's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding about what happened yesterday. We can talk about that later, but I'm going to break it down with him legally tonight.
Very good.
Right.
I have to, by the end of the day, send a new newsletter. So you guys should sign up at rachelbade.com. I'm going to do something on the DNC infighting, but also some of the infighting on the Republican side with the president, like with the Kennedy Center renaming and the plaques and the Reiner tweet. It's supposed to be the season of, joy and spreading happiness, and there's some issues a little bit on both.
So,
both
Rachel,
sides
real
here,
quick, another shameless plug. I do a column for SeanSpicer.com on Tuesdays and Fridays, And I wrote a column today that we'll put out about friends and relationships what happened this week. We talked a lot about Susie Wiles and how the wagons got circled. And it made me think of my own experience and during this Christmas time about friends and relationships and why they matter. So I'm almost done. But like, if you actually want to know why this, like what this, the bigger point of this, and I tie it into Christmas, obviously, and why the holiday seasons, like think about your friends, think about your relationships and why they matter. Because I think this week, Susie Wiles and a bunch of the folks got a snapshot or a quick crash course in who is your friend, who has your back in the city of the swamp.
Yeah. Anything from you, Dan, before we sign off?
No, just have a great weekend, everyone, and we will see you on Monday.
Yeah, Monday. And your questions live.
And your questions. Be
Go to
camera ready,
DC
guys.
Huddle, the DCHuddle.com. Sign up because you'll get the link so you can go into. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and come back and kick off the Christmas week with the DC Huddle.